All right, good evening, folks. Welcome to Monday Night Law on Kirk's Law Corner. I hope you all had a wonderful weekend, Halloween, all that good stuff, tricks and treats. Have an interesting show for tonight. Now, some of you may be aware of we had We the People Idaho 2021 event. It's our fourth annual event um, over here in Nampa, Idaho, and I think it was a pretty good event. Had a lot of great speakers and had a nice little lineup here, agenda. And I'll want some people, well, everybody here, pay attention to the bottom down there where it says roundtable discussion Q&A from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. Now this obviously was printed up beforehand. Okay, this was handed out for people who came in, so they knew what times the speakers were speaking and all that, the agenda for the day, right? So um, something happened at this round table discussion, and involves Ammon Bundy. Now I'm going to play his video that he made right after, and I'm going to provide some rebuttal. Okay, and I'm going to provide this rebuttal based on the fact that he made this video. And let's all remember the fundamental law here, because this is a lot of what I'm going to be um, showing tonight, or not really showing, but discussing is what we're actually talking about here is fundamental law, common law. So I think we need to return to some fundamental principles of law. Hey brother, how you doing? Amber, how you doing? Let me get my stuff squared away here, visual wise for me. Yo, Peter, you're watching. All right, brother. Let me see. How do I get this? All right. I'll have to put this like this. Again, Facebook messing things up. Of course, and it doesn't remember how I moved everything around how I wanted it. But that's okay. We'll figure that out. Yep. Yep. Hi, Jacqueline. Hi, Kat. All right. So we're going to start off with Ammon's video, and I'm going to critique this. And a lot of people that have been following me for quite some time actually um, familiar with the law, and a lot of you are familiar with me and my ideology, anti-corruption, most definitely anti-communism, anti-socialism. I believe in true American republic, American values, what our founders, going clear back to even the Magna Carta of 1215, the fundamental liberty, right? That's what the Magna Carta is, the Great Charter of Liberty. And if we read from the Magna Carta, it's about separating from the Roman Catholic Church, Catholicism. So this is in my mind what we're actually dealing with is Catholicism again. We have all these other new made up terms, socialism, communism, fascism. Okay, none of those words really existed back then. was monarchy or aristocracy. Okay. And what we're dealing with is, again, is Catholicism, which in my studies, I found that some of the issues that we're having right here, right now, today, goes clear back to 400 BC. This isn't something new. It might be new for some people here. It might be even new for me, right? But I can tell you, in my studies, I found this crap goes clear back to 400 BC. Catholicism. So, I'm going to try. Okay, here we go. I have to screen share the sound. So we'll start with Ammon Bundy's video that he did Saturday night right after what happened. And I'm gonna stop the video at the certain parts or wherever he makes a statement. I'll stop it and I'm gonna rebut it. So here we go.
Hey there, apologize. I made a video just earlier live, but it for some reason wasn't connecting and there was issues. I know the lighting's not that great in here, but it's Saturday night. I don't expect a whole lot of people to be on this live video, but I had a very interesting experience happen to me tonight. I was asked about a couple months ago to speak at the We the People conference here in Idaho. I've spoken at this conference for the last several years, and it's always been pretty good. And I was asked by Tony Pellegrino this year, came, ended up speaking for about an hour about liberty, about where we're at in Idaho. I felt there was a great spirit, that there was a good reception. And then they decided that they were going to have like this round table. And anyway, I have some concerns about, that this was intended or planned. They tried to, entrap me in this situation. I can see now that it was probably intentional. But, and that's okay. But I know that Tony is friends with Kirk Pendergrass, and what happened about a year ago, a little over a year ago, is there was a group of people that went down.
Okay, so I'm going to rebut the fact that there was some sort of plan. Well, yeah, there was a plan. It's right here on the paperwork that I just previously showed. That the roundtable discussion Q&A. Now the plan was for people like Christy Zitto, Tammy Nichols, Idaho representatives, to have a roundtable discussion, a question and answer Q&A at the end for the last hour. It's on the paperwork. That's the plan. Yeah, there was no plot against you, Mr. Bundy, in any way, shape, or form. There was never a discussion between Tony Pellegrino and myself, nor from anybody within in the crowd. In fact, when this all first started there, I was fumbling around with my camera setup stuff, and Tony had started it off, and it was going to be somebody asked the question, you could direct it at any one of the three of us, and then you're supposed to answer the question, and then you're supposed to pass the microphone on, because that's how a good debate works. So Tony asked for the first question and started out with that, and yes, I happen to know the man. Yeah, sure does. Sure do. I do know the man. But I'll say it again. There was no plan. I never discussed anything with that man about specifically asking you a question about Article 11, Section 7 and 8 of the Constitution for the state of Idaho, which clearly you're not familiar with. I happen to be quite knowledgeable on the law, constitutions, constitutional law, common law, American common law, the history of law, facts of law, maxims of law. You know, that's kind of what I've been into for the last 27 years, studying law and the history of law. So, no, Mr. Bundy, there was no conspiring against you to entrap you or anything even remotely close to that. No ill intentions. And in fact, right before all of that, before you went to speak up there, I asked you if it was okay to record you because I wanted to promote you. I was going to play your video and I was going to promote you because I have supported you for years since you went over there for the Hammonds. I thought you were a pretty good man of integrity and honor. But as we're going to see here, Mr. Bundy, you have not acted in honor. You've acted in dishonor. And in fact, you've committed the crime of slander. So I'm going to forward you as a good man, me, an honorable man with integrity. I'm going to forward you the opportunity to do the right thing here, especially after I give rebuttal. Because see, you ran out of the building when you went to hand over the microphone when it was my turn to talk. And so you're not supposed to be having a dialogue with the crowd, the people, right? They're supposed to ask the question and you're supposed to answer it and we move on. But you decided you wanted to take on a debate with the crowd, and then the crowd didn't agree with you. And again, I had nothing to do with any of that. That was all on you. That was your conduct. That was all you. You're the one with the microphone. You were the one that was putting this stuff out. You were the one taking actions and speaking. It wasn't me. I didn't have anything to do with it. The crowd didn't agree with you and you didn't like it. And then, as you said, I'm going to throw you under the bus here. And we'll get to that part here in your diatribe, which I will rebut. So let's continue on.
Downtown Boise, and they were associated with me, with People's Rights, and they went downtown and
Okay. The first thing is this is referring back to when a group of People's Rights people, which you had previously stated at least 3 times that I'm aware of, that I was at your specific meetings in your building there out in Emmett. You said there was no hierarchy in People's Rights. You're not in charge of People's Rights, and that's up to the people to come together and peaceably assemble or whatever have you, and that we could do whatever we wanted. Remember? That's what you said at least 3 times that I'm aware of. Came right out of your own mouth at these meetings. So when we decided to come together and try to stand up against tyranny, and the intent to going downtown, which I made it very clear with my 4-page lawful notification letter that I put together, and the flyer, which was separate from the lawful notification letter, was to educate. And that I remind everybody we need to remain civilized, that we're trying to educate the people. We're trying to get people educated on the common law, the real law, and to effectively defend ourselves, because that's what People's Rights is about, right? Is defending ourselves and coming together and standing up together. And so the intent was to go into these businesses and say, here's a lawful notification letter. Here's the law, the little bits and pieces of what our rights are, and the limitations of corporations, both public and private, which I'll explain that to you, because clearly you do not comprehend the complexity of this argument. But I'll sure clarify it for you, which I clarified it right after you left, because you didn't have the integrity or the honor to stick around and listen to me speak and answer the question and rebut. Like you said, I'm going to throw you under the bus here. And this is what you did inside.
began to, pretty much force their way into businesses.
Now, force our way into businesses. Okay, are we talking about this right here? I think that's you right here, isn't it, Mr. Bundy? Forcing your way into Southwest District? Is this the type of forcing our way in that you're talking about? That would be Ammon Bundy forcing his way into Southwest District Health. That's evidence of a man forcing his way into a building. We did no such thing. The businesses that we went into had open signs. They were open for business. That's what the is. People are free to come in, because that's that free trade you talk about. But there again, you're not quite educated on what free trade really means. But I'll educate you on that one as well. But let's continue on.
Refusing to put masks on, and they basically are taking the line that because the business is a public business, or open to the public, that it's a public business, and therefore that the business, the corporation or the business or whatever, because it's open to the public, has to follow the rules of the public.
Okay. Let me correct you there, Mr. Bundy. That's not what I believe, and that's not actually the law. Okay. So in our republic here, we have what's called the American common law. It's the fundamental law. And just like Hale versus Henkel talks about, yeah, an individual may carry on his private business how he sees fit. This is true. Okay. But when you open your doors to the public, the fact is okay, there's two parts to this. And this is what needs to be understood, comprehended, and then understand it, stand in agreement. So there's two parts. The ownership and the operation. So first, the ownership, is it privately owned or is it publicly owned? And then the type of business, is the type of business open to the public, or is it private, as in by invite only? Like a private membership association. That's a private business. So privately owned and privately operated is the private. There's no signs, no open signs. It's not open to the public. They're not open for business. Now, the other side of the public side is being subsidized by taxpayer dollars. It's called a subsidy. Okay. If they receive a subsidy from the government, which we, the people, are the government. Otherwise, government is just the Constitution, piece of paper. Because remember, in our republic here, it's of the people, by the people, for the people. We don't have rulers. We don't have kings and queens and princes. Okay. You do know that, right, Mr. Bundy? So if it's subsidized by taxpayer dollars, that actually makes that a public business, publicly owned, and operates in the public. So that's a public business. Now, if there's a business that's privately owned and receives subsidies, like let's say St. Luke's. St. Luke's is privately owned, but is subsidized by federal taxpayer dollars, Medicare, Medicaid, and other, like for instance, what we're going through now, through FEMA money, federal emergency money, right? So it's being subsidized. So that makes that a privately owned and a public business. It's a matter of public business. Those are some of the clear distinctions and the differences between private, public, and public. It's the ownership and the type of business, how it operates. So if you want to remain in the private, do not put up an open sign. Truly, in the private. The second you put up an open sign, actually, it wouldn't matter either way. Because here's what needs to be understood is that the common law is the real law. It's the fundamental law, right? American Jurisprudence, Volume 16, Constitutional Law, Section 100. This is 2017 update, where I go down to the law library and I look this stuff up because, I actually study law because reading means reading. The Constitution is usually a declaration of principles of the fundamental law. Many of its provisions being only commands to the legislature to enact laws to carry out the purposes of the framers of the Constitution, or mere restrictions upon the power of the legislature to pass laws. However, it is entirely within the power of those who establish and adopt the Constitution to make any of its provisions self-executing, that is, operative without any necessity for further legislation. Criteria which may be relevant in determining whether a constitutional provision is self-executing or not, including a description of the right in detail, such as the means for its enjoyment and protection. Really? For its enjoyment and protection. The absence of any directive to the legislature for further action, a particularly informative legislative history as to the provision's intended operation, and a consistency of self-execution with the scheme of rights established in the Constitution as a whole. Even without the benefit of a declaration that they are self-executing, constitutional provisions in bills of rights and those merely declaratory of the common law are usually considered self-executing, as are provisions which specifically prohibit, now pay attention here, particular conduct, like telling somebody they have to wear a mask to come into their privately owned, open to the public business. You can't have any policies that come in conflict with the common law, because that's the real law. Our rights are the law. It's fundamental, and they're principles of law, like the Declaration of Independence says. They are self-evident, common sense law. Okay, so if it's supposed to be common sense law, and the fact is what? That to secure these rights, government is instituted among men, receiving their just powers under the consent of the governed. We understand that concept there? The government was instituted to secure among these unalienable rights is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which you're aware of, but you contradict yourself right here in this video.
And they're somehow saying that, masks are sorry, my throat's a little dry. Thanks for telling me you can't hear me very good. I'll speak up. So these people were going downtown. They were going into these businesses, these small businesses downtown Boise, and they, who were basically requiring masks to come into their businesses, and they were refusing to wear masks. And then they were saying that the business, because they're open to the public, has to follow basically what the rules of the public are.
Now, see, there again, one, not all of them were small businesses. St. Luke's, Costco, Walmart. Okay, we hit some of the bigger businesses too. We hit lots of them. Okay, and again, the intent was to educate. And not only that, the flyer was about, hey, if you want to stand up against the tyranny, because remember, this is government, alleged government officials who put out these guidance documents, orders of quarantine for bars and nightclubs. If we actually read Central District Health's order of quarantine is for bars and nightclubs, which again is not lawful. It's not how quarantine works, according to the letter of the law. But if they wanted to stand up against the tyranny, to get signed up with people's rights, because that's what you told us to do, right? Is to get out here and to gather as many people as we can to come together and bring unity and to stand together, to fight together, to stand against the tyranny. That was the intent, to bring education and to gather those business owners that wanted to fight against the tyranny to join with people's rights so that we could come together and defend ourselves. And then also on that same flyer, I put my business name on there, Kirk's Law Corner LLC, Limited Liability Company. That's right. I have a business doing this. I'm an educator, also do news and provide other services like Idaho Notary Public. I'm an officer of the state. I have certain fiduciary duties that come with being a notary public, like mandatory reporter, filing criminal complaints on behalf of the people from the private against public servants. So the intent isn't what you say it was, and you don't have any firsthand knowledge of what actually happened down there because you weren't there. So I'm not sure where you're getting your information from about what the intent was that was clearly laid out before we even went out. I made it very clear that we were to remain civilized and that this is about education, trying to bring unity so that we can all come together and stand in unity against tyranny. Because again, this isn't the first time in history that we've been here, but you probably haven't read that part of history of law where I have. So again, was just trying to help my fellow man, help my fellow man to effectively defend himself. So no, Mr. Bundy, again, the fundamental principle is thou shalt not bear false witness. And that's what you're doing here, is bearing false witness.
And I disagreed with them then and disagree with them now. I made a statement that you'll find actually on this channel, YouTube channel, about the principles of private property and how they apply to a business. And it doesn't matter if the business owner chooses to allow people come from the street or whatever else. The principles of private property ownership still applies because a business owner purchases that property. A business owner, hires the employees, makes the policies, gets the loans, does all the things that they do in order to make that business successful, including the 16 to 17 hours a day of work. All of that is that person's property. And just because he opens up to the public doesn't mean that all of a sudden he loses those rights. And so this idea that, if you're at public or open to the public, you're a business, this idea that a person can come in and try to force, the business owner to do business with them the way they want to is wrong. And this is what Kirk Pendergrass is pushing.
No, that's not what I'm pushing. I want everybody to follow the law. Because again, the common law, American common law, our rights are the law. They apply equally everywhere, all the time, always, because those are right. Those rights come from God, natural rights. The laws of nature and nature's God, the Declaration of Independence. That's the law of this nation. Okay.
And I want to connect the dots with what he is doing and how he has got a lot of people to convinced that if a business is open to the public, that somehow they're a public business. That is right to refuse service. Matt Rogers understands that. You know, each business has a right to refuse service.
Okay. So first of all, a business is a fiction. Fictions don't have rights. Okay. Businesses have privileges. It's a privilege to do business in our communities. You have the right to contract your labor as you see fit. And again, here's the clear distinction. If a man is contracting his labor, that's in the private. Say I want to contract with a man to paint my house. Okay, that's a private. That's private contract. That's in the private. Okay, so if we have somebody who's acting in interstate or foreign commerce, where their product actually comes from a foreign country or a foreign state, then they're operating their business in the public, in commerce. And that's precisely what Article 11, Section 7 and 8 talk about: corporations, public and private. Publicly owned or privately owned, it's irrelevant. Okay? You cannot have any business practices that come in conflict with our rights, because our rights are the law. We don't allow that in our settled, civilized society. We're settled on the law. The common law is the settled law. And we're civilized because we believe in a process that is due to your fellow man for any wrongs committed, which you have violated here. You know, you've never talked to me about any of this. I've reached out to you. You know, back when you did your video a year ago, I tried to talk to you about it. I did a rebuttal video back then, and you still hold the same opinion? That's not honorable, Ammon.
Doesn't matter if they're a corporation or, if they're a self entity or LLC or whatever. It doesn't matter. Now, you might not like this. You know, people might not like this. They want to be able to go into a business and they want to, not have to wear a mask. And I am the same way. But the choice is whether we go in or not. That's right. Mighty Mouse girlfriend. That's right. When you go into that business, you have the choice to go in or not. And if you don't like the conditions that the business owner has set, then you don't go in. You don't give them your money. You don't give them you don't be their customer. And so it ended up where this conference.
I actually agree with that. And I've said that before, to stop patronizing these businesses that are requiring that. But see, again, the intent was to educate business owners and just to see if we could gather people who wanted to stand against the tyranny, because they would have a cause of action. See, you got to understand how that works. Cause of action. Okay. And again, bringing unity and trying to bring more people into people's rights so that we can all come together and stand against tyranny. This was never about forcing our way in, which we never did. Not that I'm aware of. And I know for a fact that I didn't. I never forced my way into any building. In fact, the one that I happen to have a case on right now, it says right on the front window, We serve everyone only. So for them to say that we have to have a mask to come in violates their own signage. I didn't write it. I didn't put it in the window. They did. And considering that particular business acts in foreign commerce, their products come from foreign countries. They're operating their business in the public. They have an open sign, hours of operation. They're in the public. And yes, when you're talking about, see, they're providing goods. Now, when you're talking about the right to refuse service for any reason, with the exception, we all do know that there is an exception to that rule. And that is against discrimination against race, religion, or gender, those kinds of things. But see, religion is about liberty of conscience, free to choose, free choice, because God gave us the right to choose for ourselves. And then a mask would have to do with medical. My health is none of your business, anybody's business. So none of your business practices can dictate to me my health. You also can't ask me for any kind of a medical information if I've received a vaccine or not. That's between me and my healthcare provider. That's private information and would be none of your business.
Was kind of ended up in a little bit of an uproar because I would not agree with them, and they, it looks like they tried to set me up, which I'm fine with that. I don't agree with them. Now, like I said, I was wanting to connect this socialism, which is the gateway to communism. Socialism, by definition, is when the government controls the means of production. And what Kirk Pendergrass is pushing, and with the others that were in there that were trying to basically entrap me in this, round table, what they're saying is that when you become a business that's open to the public, then the government gets to control your means of production.
No, Mr. Bundy. That is not what I'm saying. And I've never said anything like that. Remember, but the Declaration of Independence does say that to secure these rights, governments are instituted, right? Receiving their just powers under the consent of the government. We did give government the power to defend our rights and come to our aid and defense. Okay? That's just how our form of government was built. But I do not think government should have the ability to stop you from production, manufacturing your own product. No, totally. I'm actually in agreement with you on that one. Government has no business in the private side. If you were to do private, not private public, because the second you open your doors to the general public, you're opening your doors for scrutiny, to be scrutinized. Whether you like that or not, that's just the way it is. Remember the snake oil salesman? Remember that? That's one of those things that we gave the power to government to do, was to protect us from snake oil salesmen. Okay? I know, buyer beware and all that kind of stuff. But the thing is didn't the people back then chase them out of town? Yeah, those snake oil salesmen that would come through town back in the day, they chase them out of town because the people are the government. So I'm not saying that I want to stifle anybody's ability to manufacture their own product for sale. Heck, you want to grow cattle, raise cattle for sale? That's your private business. Yes. Stay in the private. You don't need a business license for that. That I'll argue. I have argued. If you're going to be private, you don't need a business license. But for the necessary security and safety of the people, maybe you're going to make a product that's, I don't know, injurious, harmful to the people. Well, we need to make sure that you don't have those kinds of products, that you're not selling poison. But then again, government's not doing a very good job of that, are they?
That is socialism. That is a Karl Marx communist step to communism. To get control of the means of production. Communism is where private property becomes common, including and especially the businesses or the means of production. And so to save literally our liberty and our right to freely trade with each other, that right is given to us from God. To save that, we have to stamp out and dispel people like Kirk Pendergrass. He is basically a socialist. He is pushing socialism. He is.
Now, why hasn't Mr. Bundy contacted me and tried to talk to me about any of this stuff and listen to me? He's never done that. Of all these years that I've tried to talk to him, he just blows me off. Well, now we know why. He thinks I'm a socialist and I'm into communism and I'm pushing socialism and communism. Really? Some of you followers out here that have been following me for how many years? Have I ever pushed socialism and communism? I believe I teach against that. And again, nobody set you up, Ammon. That was all you. You started interacting with the crowd, and the crowd wasn't agreeing with you, just like I'm not agreeing with you right here, right now, except for a couple different points you've made. Okay.
Is saying that a business must follow the policies of the public, which is communism, that the business must be common. That is exactly what he's saying. And any other way, it doesn't matter. You could say corporation this, you could say, this or that. And for the government to get involved in that is basically socialism. Now, there was one man there who asked the question, who was obviously there to ask that question. That was his entire intent, which I think was the entire intent of the, the questions and the, round table and all of that. I think it was set up that way. I don't know if Tony was involved in that or if he was just manipulated by Kirk, but it was pretty obvious that's what it was, and they thought that they were going to.
Pretty obvious that that's the way it was. No, Ammon. Nobody conspired against you for anything. And up until your little stunt there, you had my support. You had my vote, which I told you right before you went up there and spoke. And I've told you several times. When you was out there at Kleiner Park and did your big announcement, of course, we all knew that. I told you then. You've got my support. You got my vote. But now you want to treat me like this? You're acting in dishonor, man. You're bringing dishonor to my name. You're calling me a socialist and communist. That I'm pushing that? That I'm the one forcing my way into these buildings when clearly there's video footage of you forcing your way into a building. Again, thou shalt not bear false witness. Aren't you a Mormon? Don't you believe in the Ten Commandments, Ammon?
Going to make me look bad using the Idaho Constitution. But on the end of that clause that was read, I believe it was Article 11 or Section 11. I need to go to that. Basically talks about corporations not infringing the rights of the people. And yeah, that is correct. Just like the government does not have a right to infringe upon the rights of the people, neither does a corporation. But, you know,
Wait, what did he just say there? Let's back that up. Because he says it right there.
basically talks about corporations not infringing the rights of the people. And yeah, that is correct. Just like the government does not have a right to infringe upon the rights of the people, neither does a corporation. But, you know, if a corporation was to force you into their business, was force you to buy, then that would be an infringement upon your rights. Or if
Having a man tell me I have to wear a mask to come into his business where he has an open sign is also a violation of my right to be free as opposed to slavery. My right to be equal, again, as opposed to being a slave, and the right of liberty of conscience, like I had you continue to read there. Because, see, I've already read the Constitution. I've already studied this stuff. I know what it says off the top of my head. That's why I had you read that particular part so that everybody understood that liberty of conscience is religion, Article 1, Section 4 of the Idaho Constitution. Article 1, Section 1, that we're all created free and equal. Those three fundamental principles, see, those are principles of law, not code, not constitution. That's the common law, the fundamental law. It's fundamental, it's self-evident, it's common sense. No man can violate God's rights because those rights come from God, not from man and not from government.
they were to force you to, you know, into slavery, those type of things would not be right. And that's what the Constitution was saying. That's what the Idaho Constitution prohibits. It prohibits a corporation or a business from, you know, infringing upon the rights of the people, even the right of conscience. But that in no way disparages a business owner's right to determine what goes on in his property, which is his business.
You just totally contradicted yourself right there.
Even if he's open to the public. So what Kirk Pendergrass is saying is wrong. And in fact, like it or not, you know, if you get on, like, and I use this example, if you want to fly, right, and you got to get on Southwest airplane, and Southwest says, look, you got to wear a mask in order to fly on our property, then by hell, that's their decision to make. You know, and that is their decision, like it or not. And I might lose all my support, but that's just the way it is. You know, if I decide to buy an airplane and I decide to fly people from one point to another, and I make the policies, then you can decide to fly on my airplane or not. But those are my policies. Why? Because it's my private property. And just because I'm open to the public getting on my plane and flying and paying me to fly them, that doesn't mean I lose my rights as a property owner, especially as a business owner. I mean, their principles and their concepts of what they're trying to push is completely wrong, and it is socialism. You know, it is socialism, and it will destroy this country. It'll destroy Idaho if we allow that to take root.
Okay, Ammon, there's a difference between a major corporation like, say, Delta Airlines or United Airlines, or the international flights. They're acting in interstate and foreign commerce. Okay, that's, this is the sad part about this. Why doesn't he comprehend this? I don't get it. It's in writing. I know he said he'd have to go read it, but you would think if you're going to be running for governor that you would already know the Constitution. Okay. Right here. And the policy powers, because it's policy, not police, of the state shall never be abridged or so construed as to permit, that's the business license, corporations to conduct their business in such manner as to infringe the equal rights of individuals or the general well-being of the state. You can't have a policy that has anything to do with my health because that's none of your business. You can't have a business that says, oh, we're going to do this for your health and then dictate to me, because that violates the fundamental principles of being free, equal, liberty of conscience, those equal rights. We all have those same rights. Again, common law. Now, you want to have your own plane. Again, the common law still applies. Sure, somebody can say, man, you're nuts. I'm not. No. That's different. That is very different than from what United Airlines and Delta and, all the big corporations do. But this is the reason why we have the law of the land here. And this is corporations, public and private. Okay? So it doesn't matter which one you choose. This is how the corporation operates. Does it operate in the public? Well, I wouldn't say operate. This would probably be more ownership. But again, we're actually talking about corporations, not like a one-man show business where he contracts his labor. That would be the private. He's not open to the public. But nonetheless, if you don't like what the law says, the law of the land, which again, the law that the law of the land refers to here is actually the common law. So you're free to change that. Do a petition to alter, reform, or abolish whatever it is you think is unlawful or unconstitutional here.
So Kirk Pendergrass will destroy Idaho if his ideas, like them or not, take root. They will destroy Idaho because it'll destroy all the businesses and all the right to trade with each other. And, I understand why you feel that way, why people feel that way. They think they can go to a hospital and force a nurse or force a doctor to give them service without complying to their policies.
No. See, nobody's saying here to force them to do anything other than the fact that, well, if you're going to talk about hospitals and medical professionals, they have what's called a Hippocratic oath. Do we know about the Hippocratic oath? I'm not sure if he does. Might want to look that one up. The Hippocratic oath, where they make the oath that they'll help at all times, no matter what. That's the Hippocratic oath. Might want to research that one.
Well, I'm sorry. As long as that hospital is private property, as long as that hospital is a private business, which I know it gets convoluted when you're talking about, they received a bunch of public funds and all of that, and there certainly is something there. But when it comes to a private corporation or a private business, it doesn't matter if it's a hospital or if it's a doctor's office or if it's an airliner or if it's a little business downtown Boise. serving coffee. The business owners get to make the policies because it's their private property. And the government doesn't have a right to infringe upon those decisions, and neither does the public. Otherwise, it is socialism, the control of the means, when the government or the people are controlling the means of production.
So let's just, I mean, this is going to be pretty self-evident here, but going with your logic here, Mr. Bundy, some of us are aware of, like pizza parlors that were child trafficking that's involved in satanic rituals, literally scaring children to death to raise the adrenaline level in their bodies by cutting them, beating them, scaring the crap out of them until they actually literally have a heart attack or their brain just fries from the torture. But that's their policy. You're okay with that? You're okay with having a privately owned business open to the public, having a policy that it's okay to torture children to death? I'm not.
And socialism is the gateway to communism. And I'm sorry, but, Kirk and anybody else who agrees with them, you're wrong. And you will destroy free trade in this country, free trade in Idaho. You will destroy that. And, I was, entrapped in that situation that was kind of controlled by those who set it up. And
no, Ammon. No, Ammon. That was all you. Tony and I, who set this event up, had no ill intention against you. There was no discussion, not even a peep from either one of us to each other, setting you up. No, Ammon, that's not true. And I'm aware that you've talked to Tony Pellegrino, and he informed you of the same thing.
I was more than willing to argue that point. I did argue it. I made my examples. But somehow they believe that they have a right to make the decision to go into that business, and then that business has to comply to what the common has agreed. And that, my friends, is communism. That is communism, where the private business, including the means of production, becomes common.
Okay, I agree with you there that the means of production, if I was advocating that government has some sort of authority to dictate to me or you or anyone else what we can manufacture and what we can sell it for and who we sell it to, yeah, I would agree with you. That's communism, socialism. But that's not what this conversation was about. That's not what the question was about. So I don't know how you got off onto that's part of the subject matter when this was about forcing the people to wear a mask or to take vaccines. Because this is a multi-million-dollar question from, I don't know, 300 million people here in America. And I don't know how many billions of the people around the world have this same question. Where do they get the authority to dictate to us that we have to wear a mask or get a vaccine? There was no setup, Ammon. That's just a very hot topic right now throughout the whole world. Everybody has that question.
Where the people, or technically the government policies, rule the business owners. And like it or not, I know I've said it multiple times, I'm just trying to emphasize, like it or not, that destroys liberty. And anybody who is supporting a candidate, because I know that this is how Janice McGeehan believes. I believe that she believes. And if she's wrong, or if I'm wrong in that, then I apologize, because I think her policies have been to control small businesses. Her voting record has been that. And people want to make a decision between her and I of who they're going to support to run against Little. And if you support, uh, businesses that are open to the public, if you support the government or the public controlling those businesses, then you should not vote for me. You should vote for Janice McGeehan. And if enough people will, express that to me now, that look, we agree that with Janice that and Governor Little, because they both agree that private businesses, public businesses, corporations, all of those businesses, that if they're open to the public, that they should be controlled by public policy. If you believe that, then you should not vote for me, because I do not believe.
I I, I don't believe that either. What I believe is we have a common law that's common to all, and no man has the right to deprive any of those rights under the guise of business. Our rights are off limits. We're free and equal, and liberty of conscience. We all get to think for ourselves. No man can dictate to another man. Period. And a corporation, again, is a fiction. Fictions don't have rights. It's a privilege to do business in our communities, not a right. The right to contract your labor as you see fit is the right you're referring to. That's in the private. Like if I had a woodworking shop and my neighbor wants me to build him a dining room table, that's private, not open to the public, right? My neighbor came and talked to me and says, hey, I know you got a woodwork shop there. I see you make some good stuff. Or, I was over at the Joneses the other day and they said that you made him a dining room table. Hey, can you make me one? Yeah, sure can. But do I have the right to tell him he has to wear a mask to come in there? No, I don't. No, I don't. Now, another thing I'd like to point out, the one Supreme Court case there about the man having to bake a cake, right? This is perfect. Okay. This is a perfect example, that particular case. And I'm glad that the Supreme Court ruled the way that they did, because that's true. The right to refuse service for any reason. Okay. So, and like the man said, the owner of the business said, those people had been coming in there for years buying their products. He had no problem with that. That's because his doors are open for business. And he can't say, hey, you can't come in here. What's the reason? Your doors are open to the public and everybody's equal here. We're all free as opposed to slaves. But it's when they went up to the counter and said, hey, will you make this cake for me, please? He respectfully declined. But they tried to turn it in. Well, we have special rights. We're LGBTQ. No, we all have the same rights. So yes, that's absolutely correct. The right to refuse service. When a man comes to you and asks you to do something, you have the right to refuse. But when you have a business that's open to the public and you're selling goods, you don't. You can't just arbitrarily say, you can't come in here, but you have an open sign. You're acting in commerce. I have the same rights as everybody else to come into that building with an open sign. That's what that open sign means. My doors are open. Come on in.
Believe that in any way. That is one of the things I don't believe. I can clearly say that I do not believe that. I have been a small business owner. I know what it takes. I know the financial risk that a small business owner takes. I know how tough it is. I know the many hours that it takes to make a business run, to hire employees, to keep them in a paycheck, to give them the things that they need in order to do their job, to provide a service and produce. It's extremely hard. And then to have people like Kirk Pendergrass coming in here and saying that somehow that that work is now public and the policies are public and the property is public. It's just wrong. And I'll stand against it until the day I die. So thank you very much. I'm going to get off this phone or off this. I think I beat a dead horse long enough. So thanks for listening and have a great day.
I really wish you would have come and talked to me, Ammon. But you resorted to that. You know, that's just wrong. It's immoral. It's unethical. It's dishonorable. And the crime is called slander when you publish it. Writing is libel, verbal video is slander. It also violates God's law. Thou shalt not bear false witness. And that's what you did. So hopefully that clarified things. You know, we could have had this conversation, or at least the part about allegedly forcing our way into businesses downtown. That never happened. You've never had that conversation. It's been right over a year now, right? You've not once talked to me about it. You know, I've had your back for many years now, Ammon. I tried to stand up for you down there at the Idaho Capitol when you were asked to leave and you didn't. What what makes you think that you're different than me? That you can go in there and not leave. Now, see, that's the other thing. We did leave the businesses. Okay. But we were trying to explain to them, whoa. You know, we're actually trying to educate you on the law and see if you want to stand up against this. This is wrong. What's happening? And it's happening to everybody, right? We're being induced under fear and fraud. And now I have the proof of it. And remember, I have my own cases. I tried to help you in your case. You didn't want to listen to me. You didn't win your case, did you, Ammon? You and Aaron both. Now, I started to try and help Aaron, but you didn't want my help. No, actually, that's not true. What you wanted me to do was do it for you. You didn't want to talk to me. You wanted me to do your paperwork for you and just give it to you on a silver platter. It's not how I work. You're going to have to learn how to do this for yourself. And if you're going to put yourself out there as some sort of leader, you damn well better know what you're doing. And you don't. You don't know the law. You don't know hardly anything about the law. And your ideologies are way off. You contradict yourself right there several times within the video. Just that little one. No. You lost all respect for me. Done. You screwed yourself, dude. You started arguing with the crowd, and the crowd did not agree with you. And then you tried to say, like you said, you're going to throw me under the bus. Oh, I went downtown forcing my way into these buildings. No, that's not true. Again, bearing false witness. You never talked to me about it. Never. I've tried to reach out to you. I've tried to talk to you many times. I've called you and left messages. Yeah. We need to be bringing unity, not division. But I think people need to know who you really are, and the fact that I needed to rebut your video, and I held off. I wasn't really, I still actually wanted to support you, and I was going to put out the video that I recorded of previous to the Q&A and put you out there. That's okay. You think I'm a socialist, communist, and then I'm gonna, and anybody who follows me is is going to destroy Idaho. I don't think so. Wonder what's happening there. Oh, it came back. All right. Yeah, I'm not very happy. Video feed should be back. I don't know why it jumped like it did, but I had high hopes for you, Ammon. I thought you was gonna do the right thing. Thought you were a good, upstanding man. And make no mistake, I still believe that you did good over there. Um, I know what you and your family went through, and I'm sorry for that. And there's another thing. I was gonna go over to Oregon. I was like 3 days away. It was a Wednesday. 3 days away. Because see, I had my own I had my own mechanic shop then. I was literally in the private. See, that's how I ran my business, by word of mouth, by invitation only, no open signs. I never open to the public. And because of that, I couldn't focus on anything else, which I ended up shutting my business down, because this is all I could focus on, was saving America, saving the American people. Okay. You have no idea, because you've not talked to me. You haven't listened to me. You haven't followed any of my videos. Or you would know. You would see how knowledgeable I am on the law. You'd see how much I stood behind you and stood up for you. One of my longtime friends, we were planning to come over there. And then you guys announced you guys were leaving. And that's when Lavoy Finicum got shot, was murdered. It was a setup. That's a setup, dude. That was a setup. Now the question is who did that setup? Was that you? Did you set up Lavoy Finicum? I doubt it. No, I don't think you did. Just like Tony Pellegrino and myself, we didn't set you up, dude. We loved you. We cared for you. I still love you and care for you as a man. But you brought dishonor, disrespect. A real man of integrity, Saturday night, would have handed the mic off to me and let me rebut all of your lies, and would have stood there and listened. And a man of logic and reason would have went, wait a minute, maybe I was misinformed, because whoever you got the information from lied to you, because you weren't there. You weren't downtown. You didn't hear me give the speech before I handed out the lawful notification letters and informed them of what we're doing. You didn't hear the intent. You weren't part of it. So you're on your own, brother. I tried. And now that I know how you feel about me, I don't think there's changing any of your mind, but it is what it is. And that's the way it is, right? Should have been able to have a reasonable discussion about this stuff long time ago. Should have been able to sit there and listen with integrity, but no. There you go. You think I'm wrong. You think I'm a socialist. Maybe some of them people you got in your little small circle there are feeding you a line of crap. You might want to check your surroundings and who's giving you information, because you're being lied to. Again, thou shalt not bear false witness. And to hand the mic off and then run out of there and then run out there to your rig and do that video there. I don't know what's going on with you, bro, but that ain't cool. Oh, I know. You thought it was a setup because the crowd started disagreeing with you. I didn't hear anybody else in there agree with you. Not one. And I can tell you right now, I've been right here for almost 5 years coming this January, and a year and a half prior to that on Blog Talk Radio. I'll challenge any man out there to go through any of those videos that are still out there, right? See if you can find in there where I talk about I'm a socialist, I'm a communist, and I promote socialism and communism. Good luck. So what I want people to take from this tonight is that, one, the common law is the fundamental law. And I was going to go into the treatise on arrest and false imprisonment, but I want to end this for now because part of the team behind the scenes here needs to get off of here. But anywho's, what I want people to take from this is that the common law is the real law. And that government was instituted to secure that law from being infringed. Okay. If we comprehend those fundamental principles, and I'm not saying that government should interfere with our production, our manufacturing, what we create, and what we barter, sell, or trade. What's your trade? Are you an electrician? Are you a plumber? Are you a rancher? Are you a carpenter? That's a trade. Okay. And we do. We have the right to contract our labor. What we don't have is the right to contract somebody else's labor, because that's slavery. Making a buck off somebody else's labor, that's no. But again, common law is the real law. It's the fundamental law. It's those principles of law. And bills of rights are merely declaratory of the common law. Again, like Hale versus Henkel says, that our rights are long antecedent to the formation of the state. That's right. Our rights are from way back, right? Since the beginning of what? Genesis 1, since the beginning of time. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, right? And then he created man and gave man dominion over the land, the air, and the water. The origin of the word law. So that's free dom, free as opposed to slave, and dominion versus being dominated. We have free dominion over the land, the air, and the water. And no man or set of men are entitled to separate emoluments or privileges from the community. It's a fundamental principle of our republic, the law of this nation called America. You'd find that principle in the Virginia Declaration of Rights. Oh my gosh, that's a Bill of Rights, declarations declaring rights, which is merely declaratory of the common law, these fundamental principles of law. But you'd have to read that, to know that, to comprehend that. And that's right. I'm going to afford you the opportunity. You got 72 hours to correct your errors, or I'm going to sue you for slander. You're going to learn the hard way. And that would be the hard way. Because I do know the law, and I do know how to effectively defend myself. So, for those want to help support the channels here, help pay the bills and keep this education stuff going, I'd greatly appreciate it. Over at the office, 6477 West Fairview Avenue, Suite C, Boise, Idaho 83704. Patreon. I'm on Patreon over there, and Scott Rector came all the way from Pennsylvania, right around the corner from Tony. Came all the way out here for the law seminar and We the People. God bless you, brother. Safe travels back home. And of course, Michael, he came out here again this year for We the People and this law seminar. He came from Washington. So it was awesome. It was good to see you guys. Much love, brothers. I was really good to see. I was surprised to see Scott. I was like, wait a minute. I saw him out there in the lobby. I'm like, that's Scott. I thought he said he wasn't going to be able to make it. Sure enough, he did. It was good. It was good. So Patreon, Wednesday night workshop. That's for tier 3 and tier 4. And 4 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Mountain, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. Although we're really busy at the office, oh man, I cannot wait to share this stuff with you, but I can't right now. I can't. But I got some really good evidence, and I'm going to be using that. Once I use it, then I'll share it. Okay. So, like I was saying before, things are going to get really interesting here in Idaho. I'm not going to destroy Idaho, but there's definitely some bad corruption going on in Idaho that I'm going to destroy, that I'm going to take down lawfully, following due process of law in a civilized manner. Because that's how we're supposed to do things in our settled, civilized society. So it's going to be a little bit, but I promise y'all, once I can share this, I will. But right now, I have to hold on to it because it's evidence. Put the evidence in the car, Junior. And that's where it's going to be till it goes through the court. It goes through due process of law. once it becomes a matter of court record, then I can share it. Yep. And I know other people out there too that have used the stuff that I've taught, and it works. I know it works because I've done it.